figure.
And this is quite a different Wonder Woman from the ones we've seen before. She's a redhead now.
She's
right?
a redhead?
She's not from Amazon. What can you tell us about her? Because she's all new to us.
Oh, she was all new to me. I got the call and was like, Wonder Woman, of course I'm going to play Wonder Woman. What little girl doesn't dream of doing that? And then I got the script, and she was a lot edgier than I recall. Pretty intense, and a lot more vulnerable, which I was surprised by. You know, when I actually sort of went through the script, I thought, wow, love or heartbreak sort of formed who she became, or informed who she became, which I thought was an interesting take on it. Yeah.
What was any challenges that came to voice acting that you found?
Everything. It was such a different medium. You know, you get a lot more time in television, you know, to go over something. And, you know, thank goodness for Andrea Romano, who literally walked me through every single line, because when we first recorded, I didn't see anything. So I just was sort of in a booth doing it, you know, in the abstract. So that was really challenging.
Would you like to do it again?
I would love to do it again. I had so much fun.
Do you think that like this will lead into a sort of sequel, or is this a kind of a one and done story?
I hope it does, because I think this take on these particular characters was really cool. I think there are so many places that they could go with it.
Can you tell us a little bit about your relationship with Steve Trevor? Because in the short we see something that also in the trailer you say he's not my boyfriend.
Yeah. Well, you know, they don't really. We know that they have a history. They have a history, and she kind of gives it to him. I think probably in the one scene that you saw, but they don't go into it too deeply though. So we just know there was.
On Bones, you play a very intellectually powerful character. How does this? I mean, Wonder Woman is a very just physically powerful.
Yeah.
How is the difference in playing them, and are they very similar?
You know, it's amazing because a lot of the, you know, most of the performance in animation is the voice, and you know, I got a pretty deep, powerful voice, but I found myself having to adjust many things because she actually required more power than Cam on Bones has ever wielded, so it was pretty intense.
So this character, although she's like a totally new take on Wonder Woman, is a character with a lot of ties to DC history, like the New Gods and stuff like that.
Yeah.
So how much research and like interest in all of that big backstory did you look into?
You know, I didn't have a whole lot of time before we recorded to look into it. Of course, you know, I grew up watching the TV series, and of course, you know, I like comic books, so I knew, like, I'd read, you know, the basics, but oddly, there wasn't a whole lot of help because this was a completely different. I mean, you know, there's very little that they kept the same, so I just sort of had to throw everything that I knew out the window and dive in.
Are you, when you're recording Wonder Woman, how do you prepare yourself for like her physical actions?
That was the hardest part, and again, that was Andrea Romano, like literally walking me through like the difference between taking a punch, and C. Thomas Howell was just talking about this, and throwing a punch is like you take a punch and you go, ah, and when you throw a punch, it's ah. Who knew? I didn't know. So there was like a lot of physicality, and you know, it was in moments totally uncomfortable and way out of my depth, and I had a blast.
Do you prefer voice acting over regular acting?
Two completely different mediums, and I really like both.
So obviously you were chosen for your voice. When you're playing the character, are you just trying to speak as a character as you, or are you trying to input a different type of person into Wonder Woman?
You know, I think that's a good question. I again went in with preconceived notions, and I knew what Wonder Woman sounded like, and I thought I was supposed to sound like Wonder Woman. And Andrea and Bruce kept on saying, no, let that go. We need a little more moxie. We need a little more, like, sex her up a little. Like there was some interesting direction going on. I was like, okay, I guess we're going this way.
So you would say that this Wonder Woman is a totally different type of Wonder Woman that we've ever seen?
I'll leave that to you guys, but she's certainly different than I've ever seen. And yeah, again, I really wanted to go for what I knew, my preconceived notions, and even having just seen the film, it took me a minute to get used to seeing that voice coming out of her. Yeah, it was like, huh, it's interesting, it's cool. Well, the original, the woman that plays Wonder Woman in the Justice League series, I watched a whole bunch of the movies, so I was very familiar with her voice, which is, very clean, very straightforward, very powerful. But they were asking me to sort of have fun. In this movie, she's got Wonder Woman's got a lot of, one-liners, and she's got some sass, and they were kind of asking me to play that up and sort of have fun with it as opposed to being, so direct and powerful.
So what's it like working with Benjamin Bratt, who plays Superman, and Michael C. Hall plays Batman? Three of you. You guys haven't had to work out any sort of dynamic, or was it all kind of on the page?
Do you know, it's interesting because we all kind of, we did our stuff all separately initially, and then when it was animated, they called us all back in. But again, we did most of it separately. Somehow Benjamin Bratt and I overlapped, so he and I actually got to be in the booth together, and it was really nice to see. We got to interact and sort of play and do a couple of those scenes together, which was really cool.
About how long did the voiceover process take from beginning to completion?
Longer than I ever could have imagined. I think I did the initial, I guess scratch, the scratch vocals in January of 2014. Yeah, and then I thought, in June they're gonna they told me they're gonna call me back, so I was all excited. June came and went, and I was like, what's happening? Have they replaced me? Are we doing the movie? And I guess it's the process, which I am so not familiar with. So finally I got a call at the end of the year, no, at the beginning of this year, saying it's time to come back in, we've animated it, now you can go back and really, do it. So.
Have you seen the film, and what do you think when you hear your voice coming out?
It's a trip. It's beyond. I mean, she doesn't look like the Wonder Woman. Yeah, you guys have seen it. Does not look like the Wonder Woman I was expecting. So it made it a little easier to, but it's surreal. It's definitely surreal, and like a childhood dream come true.
Do you have a favorite scene in the film?
Oh my God! You know what? I don't know. There were so many, and I literally just got the movie and sat down and was like. So I think tonight when I'm watching it with you guys and I'm a little less in shock, I'll figure it out.
When you were in the booth, obviously this movie has a lot of fight scenes. How much were you getting into it? Were you in there acting it out?
Oh, for sure. Yeah,
You were
absolutely.
When Wonder Woman was throwing a punch, you were.
You kind of have to, because you realize there are certain things your diaphragm does when you're when you're taking a punch or when you're throwing one. It sounds, and again, Andrea Romano would literally say, "Okay, I need you to go," and so you can't be demure. You can't fake it. You kind of have to just go for it. So I was in my sweats and I just acted it all out.
But there's a different origin than the traditional Wonder Woman. And in the regular DC universe, it's a different character. Did you look into this other character, or did the producers tell you that this is what you should do?
I actually didn't even know where to look because this was so new. I sort of did my research about the old Wonder Woman, and that's that's a pretty clear backstory, but it didn't apply. So I kind of had nowhere to look. They did not. They actually just said, if you will, let go of every preconceived notion you have about Becca and just let her be what's on the page here. So it's okay, well that's interesting,
Did that make it easier or harder?
I think probably in ways it made it easier because, like I said, I went in with a preconceived notion, and they pretty quickly said, "Let that go, and we're going to create something entirely new." You know, so at least I wasn't trying to recreate somebody else's performance. I was actually doing my own. So.
That being said, do you think that you would like to take a stab at the more classic Wonder Woman, or do you really like this version of the character?
I had fun doing this one. I really had fun doing this one. You know, yeah. There was a lot. It was a lot darker.
Yeah.
A lot darker.
It's kind of your character now. I mean, you're the first person to kind of do this Gods and Monsters Wonder Woman, so it's kind of yours now.
Yeah, I like the way that sounds. Yay! Yay!
So do you think a potential crossover between like this universe and the regular animated universe that we've been seeing for so long could happen one day?
I hope so. We got to talk to Bruce about that. That would be rad.
I'm taking her away.